said, you can't tell these nothing. 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 All that seems to be on my mind is hush nothing. All that seems to be on my mind is hush nothing. All that seems to be on my mind is hush nothing. All that seems to be on my mind is hush nothing.
Money, cars, clothes, hoes, blows, drove. In the streets, man, that's all we know. Get money on the late nights till we all get dope. The fans are riding in the daytime so we all get low. Yo, they trying to stop our show, stop us from copping home. Lock us down, ship us out, they really trying to stop our show. Go touch the post, the baggage can't stop my road. 6 or 8, 7, 11, watch me knock it low. I lock it low like popping glow. Clean the streets of profit mode. Cop your head and cop your mo. Trust it to the top we go. Homie, spark one from your heat. Cardinal, J Murder, spark one on the beat. We the brand makers, touch these haters.
What's good? What's good? What's good, everybody? What's good? All right, y'all know the routine. Give me just a second. I didn't check the audio. Make sure everything is working right. All right, seems like we got audio. I don't know what's going on with the mic I brought, but it don't want to work correctly. So gotta go with my backup mic. What's good with everybody? What's good? Hit that like button as you come through. Subscribe if you're not subscribed. Drop me a comment so I know who I'm talking to. All right, y'all. So wanted to tap in, doing my daily convos. I went back, I looked at the poll that I put up the other day about what time was the best time to go on, and the majority of people said between 8 and 9, but the majority of the votes went to 7 o'clock. So I'm going to start trying to get it on around 7 or 8 if I can. If I can't, then it'll be a little bit later than that. So, but the news for today is, so I was going through my Instagram feed earlier, looking at a few things on the Grizzam. And what jumped out to me, there was somebody had posted something. Let's see if I can find it. I think I took a screenshot of it. Oh yeah, there it goes. So on Terence Crawford's page, he posted something today, and it reads basically PBC's Tim Smith on what's stopping Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. And I'm gonna read that for you here real fast. And this came out today. This was earlier today. And this is what PBC's Tim Smith feels like is stopping the fight. I'm going to give a few more seconds, see if anybody else jumps in here before I read that out real fast. What's good with everybody? Okay, we got 3 or 4 or 5 people in here. What's good? Hit that like button for me. that like button for me. Drop me a comment, whoever's in here. So, like I said, there was a something that came out on Terence Crawford's Instagram page earlier, and he left a quote and something that Tim Smith from PBC had said on why he feels like the fight hasn't happened up until this point and why it might not happen this year. So I was just gonna see what everybody had to say about that. I'll let y'all see the post. I don't know if the camera picked that up. That's the post that was up on her earlier. So I don't know how good the camera actually picks that up. But I can't adjust the Sean T was good. I already hit that like button. I appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. Definitely, man. Appreciate you for stopping through as well. So did you Sean, did you see the Instagram post Terence Crawford put out earlier? So basically what it's saying, I'll go ahead and read it off. We had three or four, I don't know what that is. We had like 5 people in here. I guess they dipped. But okay, so the post basically says PBC's Tim Smith on what's stopping Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. Economics. You don't want to insult Crawford, but he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view star. Nobody wants to make him an offer that's insulting. The numbers won't be enough to give him what he wants. Basically, and that's basically what I've been saying. Like, okay, so you say you saw her earlier. Yeah, I mean, and this is what I've been saying. He should have took that 60-40 when it was offered to him the first time. I don't know if it was him who turned it down or if it was Bob Arum who turned it down. But obviously, the numbers, they're just not matching up to what he thinks they should be. And I think that's because he feels like things are still like they were in boxing, and things definitely not are like what they were, 5, 6, 7 years ago, 10 years ago in the sport of boxing when Pacquiao, Mayweather, guys like that were commanding 50, 60, $70 million a fight. Pacquiao couldn't even get the money he wanted for the Spence fight or, for the fights that he was trying to put on. So, the dollar signs just don't match up. And a 60-40 split was listen, I don't know the exact dollar amount that they were supposed to be splitting, but that 60-40 had to have been a pretty lucrative deal for Terence Crawford, man. Being that he is the B-side, being Spence got all the belts, being the Spence more popular, I don't understand why he wouldn't have taken it at that moment other than Bob Arum probably is the one who turned it down on his behalf, because I, listen, I don't know. It it couldn't have been all Bob Arum because Terence Crawford's still hollering 50-50. So it couldn't have been all Bob Arum's doing. Uh, I'm pretty sure that's what Terence Crawford fans will say. Well, Bob Arum turned it down and messed everything up. Well, listen, Terence Crawford's still hollering 50-50. So it couldn't have been Bob Arum turning the fight down. He could have, he could go to Spence now and say, okay, I'll accept the 60-40. Being that I don't have a promoter anymore, I'm getting all the money off of it. So I'll take your 60-40. But obviously 50-50 it just don't match up. Sean says Crawford isn't a star, but that's due to a bad promotion. 60-40 is more than fair. It's way more than fair. It's way more than fair. It's actually, I think it should be more like 70-20. I mean, hold on, 70-30. It should be like more like 70-30. because he only has one belt. He doesn't sell pay-per-views. He is the other big star in the welterweight division, but 30% versus, what Spence brings to the table isn't bad. I think it really should be more like 70-30, but 60-40 is a heck of a split. You're basically getting half of everything except for probably the pay-per-view numbers. He's probably going to take the majority purse of the pay-per-view numbers, and that's not going back to Spence. That's going to PBC because they the ones who be fronting the bill for the pay-per-view stuff in the venue. So they got to get they back end back. So I really don't understand Terence Crawford's negotiating logic here. So and at the end of the day, if we just keeping it real, you got to put it all on him now because he can easily just make the fight at this point. He don't have a promoter. He ain't signed to nobody. 60-40 is a heck of a deal without a promoter. He can make the fight tomorrow. Like, okay, hey, I'll take 65-35 because that would still be a heck of a deal at this point without a promoter. Mayweather accepted 30 against De La Hoya, but my thing about that, the bad promotion part is Bob Arum should have let Crawford fight Pacquiao. And that's enough, and that's what I'm saying. That's at what point do we stop blaming Bob Arum for all this and start putting some of the blame on Crawford? Kelly Brooks said the other day, Kelly Brown, yeah, I'm sorry, who Kelly, who's one of the subscribers. She always comes through and hollers at me every once in a while when she can. But she was saying, it's been for years that Terence Crawford's turned down the best fights that have been offered. Like he hasn't fought the best fights that have been offered to him or that have been available to him. So and the main excuse has been that Bob Arum's the one stopping these fights. Kenneth Carson, what's good? What's good? And I don't believe it now. At this point, because he had the Pacquiao fight. It was an in-house fight. It could have been made. He said Bob Arum stopped it. Bob Arum said he stopped it because the matchmaker said Pacquiao was too much. And then he had the Pacquiao fight again after when Pacquiao left before they made the Spence fight because Pacquiao was trying to get that fight, remember? And they turned it down. So at what point do we start going, what is Terence Crawford doing? Like what is his team thinking? You've had all the super fights, basically contracts in front of you, and you didn't sign none of them. He had the Pacquiao contract, he didn't sign it. He could have got the Ugas fight, he didn't sign it. He could have got the Spence fight, he didn't sign it. He could have got a Thurman fight by now. I don't understand what's going on with Terence Crawford. And at some point, you got to go, it's not all Bob Arum's fault. At some point, you got to start pointing fingers at Terence Crawford and saying, what are you thinking? What are you thinking, bro? You either got to, you should have taken one of these tough fights by now. And every time he turns down a tough fight, he goes and fights a fighter who's on their way to retirement and beats him pretty badly, knocks him out, not like he did Brook, like he did Porter, like he did the guy before Brook, and pats himself on the back like he really accomplished something. And I'm like, man, at this point, I'm like, you know what? Terence Crawford himself is probably turning these fights down. Terence Crawford knows, I think he knows too that, hey, maybe I'm a little outmatched by some of these guys. And as long as I milk this thing out, I'm staying famous. As long as I hold this I'm gonna stay famous. Let me see. Shanti Mayweather. Okay, I separated that one. I think that a lot of the blame goes on Crawford too. The Crawford Arum team was a bad marriage. Yeah, I won't say that. Because Bob Arum made him famous. He made him famous. He just didn't make him a superstar. And by now, at this point in his career, he should be a superstar at this point in his career. And he's just simply not. And this is the thing I think people are missing too. You have to go back to how Terence Crawford became famous. And what made Terence Crawford famous? It was the Jeff Horn debacle that happened with Pacquiao. If the Jeff Horn debacle never happened, Terence Crawford would not be famous at this point. You know, and that goes back to the corruption in boxing and how promoters control things and how promoters manipulate things behind the scenes. And it should show you that something's got to change in boxing, because he would not even be a champion if they didn't rob Pacquiao. If they didn't rob Pacquiao, he would still be a second tier fighter, or he would have had to keep campaigning. He would have probably went back down in weight and been taking on the Josh Taylors of the world right now, and not the Errol Spences and the 147 fighters. He would be fighting probably still at 140. So I think a lot of that goes, and Terence Crawford needs to realize that. I think he actually believes he's as good as what they built him up to be, and he's really not. He's really not, because he did not. He actually didn't beat the champion, what should have been the champion for the belt at that time. He beat the guy who robbed the champion. And I mean, give him his credit for getting the belt, but you have a belt that has an asterisk next to it. So 60-40, you should have been so happy with that 60-40 split. When you got that 60-40 offered to you, and if you think that you're that good, you should have took that, ran with it, got in the ring, beat him, got it over with, and be smiling like George Kambosos right now. But instead, it's 2, 3, 4, 5 years later. We're still getting the same excuses, and we know closer to making the fight now. We actually further from making the fight than when it was first offered to him. We're actually further away now because of what's going on in the world. You know, there's less money to spread around. When it was first offered to him, they could have packed the stadium and had all kind of pay-per-view sales. Now, with what's going on in the world, I mean, they might not even be able to do it in front of a crowd now. I mean, what's going on right now, by the time they make the fight, who knows what's going to be going on? There might not even be a crowd for the fight now. They definitely not going to do it this year because, I mean, with this stuff spreading like it is, there is no crowd to really put. I mean, it's going to be hard to fill a stadium up. Which is why I think it's in Crawford's best interest at this point to find a country that's not having this problem and you know, and try to go fight over there. And I don't know if they're having this problem over in the UK, but I think the Josh Taylor fight should be looking real lucrative for Terence Crawford right now, because I don't think, and I think you're gonna be able to base a lot of that off of what happens with this Ugas fight in April, with this Ugas Spence fight. If, let's say, by the time April comes around, that things have gotten even worse, does that fight even happen? I mean, the Ugas Spence fight might not even happen now. You know, so I mean, we don't even know. I mean, and they might it might happen. Okay, let's say it happens. Let's say they do it how they was doing fights last year, where there was really no crowd, but they were still having the fighters fight each other. Okay, so then, I mean, that cuts the revenue in half. There's no people in the stadium to sell tickets to and all this other stuff. So I mean, that would take all the money out of the Crawford Spence fight. So I don't even look to see. I'm not even looking for that fight to happen this year, unless something miraculously turns around. If they start, they've already started shutting down schools. So if this goes on any longer, really, I don't see the Spence Crawford fight happening. They would be stupid to try to make it this year. You know, they need to wait for things to open back up and there to be more money generated around that fight than trying to do it when they can't even put a crowd in the stadium. Let me see. Sean says okay. Ryan Lamb, what's good? What's good? Crawford, untested at welterweight. Definitely. Devon, what's good? What's good? What's good with you? What's good with you, man? Appreciate everybody for coming back through, man. So what y'all think, man? What do y'all think? We got 3 or 4 people in here right now. What do y'all think? I mean, where do we go from here now? Because I like I said, we don't. I don't. The Ugas Spence fight ain't even really a sure. It's not a sure thing at this point yet. I mean, we got to wait another month or two, probably another month, because they're trying to do it for April. Probably another month, February before that's even set in stone. So I don't, Terence Crawford should be happy he got his last fight off and made a nice little check off of that. Because I mean, the way things are going, they might shut things down again. And he's a superstar. He shouldn't be fighting unless he can fight somewhere where they can put a crowd in the stadium. Well, he's supposed to be a superstar. He's a star, but not a superstar. So what do y'all? I mean, do y'all think he goes with Josh Taylor? I mean, let's just say everything plays out the way it's supposed to. Spence fights Ugas. Josh Taylor has his fight next month. And then what does Crawford go next? Does he go with Thurman? Does he say, you know what? I messed up. Does he go to Spence like, hey, I messed up. I should have took the 60-40 when you offered it to me. Give me 65-35 and we can make the fight. Or does he go to Josh Taylor and say, hey, I'll make a fight with you. And I do it in the UK. It's a big money fight. And, a lot of people will watch it. A lot of people will pay for it. Let's make it happen. Or, like I said a couple of lives ago, there's always Golden Boy out there. He can always roll with Golden Boy and, face off with some of the fighters they got in the meantime. Do a 1 or 2 deal. They got 1 or 2 elite welterweights over there. Do a 1 or 2 fight deal with Golden Boy. Try to spread your brand a little more. Unfortunately for him, he's already 35. He don't have a lot of time left in the sport. According to most people, I don't put a limit on how when a person wants to retire, that's when they want to retire. But most people would say he got 5 more years at best, left in boxing, and then he'll be 40 years old. So I don't see him having success up into his 40s. So he's really got like 3 more years to capitalize on. Does he want to waste another year fighting these garbage fights? Does Errol Spence want to waste another year? I mean, you already might have to waste another year because of the way things is getting out of control with the spread of everything. So it's going to be interesting to see how how this stuff plays out. Yeah, definitely go ahead, man. You want to call in? Go ahead, bro. I want to hear your opinion, man. I got to hear somebody else's opinion on this because it's definitely needed right now. Definitely needed. Because me personally, I'm just hoping that the Spence fight goes off the way it's supposed to. We'd be in some trouble if the Spence fight don't go off. If they start canceling, I mean, it's gonna be ugly for Terence Crawford. And who wins at that point? Errol Spence wins because he just gets to sit back, relax, take more time off, train up even more, and not take no punishment. So it's crazy that he really should have took that fight a year and a half ago, 2 years ago. He should have took that. Crawford should have took that fight. Could have got all this stuff over with 2 years ago. And we'll probably be on the second or the third Spence Crawford fight by now. But I mean, we still trying to argue for the first one. And that whole little post, I'll read it again for the people who didn't hear it. So Terence Crawford posted this earlier, and it basically says Tim Smith on what's stopping Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford. Economics. You don't want to insult Crawford, but he hasn't been built into a pay-per-view star. Nobody wants to make him an offer that's insulting. The numbers won't be enough to make the fight. And this is basically what I've been trying to say for a few weeks, on my lives, is that what Terence Crawford is asking for is not fair. It's not fair to either party, because if Spence takes a pay cut, he's stupid. And basically, if Terence Crawford takes a pay cut, it doesn't really matter because he's not bringing a lot to the table, and he's not taking that big of a pay cut. It's only 10%. 10% is not that much for Terence Crawford. Let's just say they splitting 40 million. Let's say that it's a $50 million fight, and they're splitting that 50 million. Well, Terence Crawford's gonna get like 18 million, 19, 17 million, 18 million, somewhere in there. And then Errol Spence is gonna get like 35, 36 million. It's not that bad I don't feel like it's, because you gotta think about it now. And maybe when he was on Top Rank, he was thinking, well, I gotta take Bob Arum's cut out of that. So that drops me back down to probably like 12 million for that fight, 11 million, where Spence is going to get like 20 million. So I think that's probably where his thinking is. But Spence still has to pay his promotional company. They have to take their portion of the pay per view. They have to take their portion of the gate, which is probably going to be a 5 million. PBC will most likely be hosting the venue, another 10 million, something like that for the venue. So Earl Spence is at the end of the day is only going to end up with probably like 18, 19, million dollars, somewhere around the same thing that Terence Crawford's going to get for the fight now, because he doesn't have Bob Arum taking his cut. So they both, at 60-40, they both would probably be making about the same amount of money. Whoop. Got myself. So, now the fight makes sense. With him being a free agent, the fight makes sense at 60-40. With him being with Bob Arum, he was taking a little bit of a pay cut because Arum was going to get a piece of it. And even the piece that Arum was going to get still shouldn't have been enough for him to stop the fight, not to make the fight. I think if he does sign with PBC, though, that might make it a little more lucrative on his end, because I think as an independent, he might not get as big of a piece of the pay per view and the gate, because Spence got to get a piece, PBC got to get a piece, and Fox Sports got to get a piece of that, and then Terence Crawford would be getting the small majority of all that, and then he'll get the bulk of his guaranteed money though. But it is what it is at this point. I don't know. I don't know where Crawford goes in at this point, man. Definitely, if you want to call in, man, go ahead, bro. Go ahead, Devon. Type the number in the chat. For some reason not getting through. Type the number in the. What do you mean in the chat? You want me to type it in? Hold on. It's There you go. There you go. It's kind of blurry. I need to change the font. I need to change the font on it. Cause it looks good on a TV, but on a computer screen or a phone, it's probably like real small. You know what? I might not even have it turned on. Hold on. Let me make sure it's turned on real fast. I forgot to. Hold on. Let me see. Yeah, I think I forgot to turn it on. So I guess you got to be on it. You got to be on the page for it to work. Oh, no, it's working. Hold on. Hold on. We back. We back. It's working. Yo, yo, yo. What's good with you, bro?
Hey man, you got great content, man.
I,
Great content.
I appreciate it, bro. Where you calling from, bro?
Yeah, man. I'm in Houston.
Houston, Texas. Okay, okay. That's what's up, man.
Yeah, I'm Houston, Texas, man. Yeah, man. I mean, look, you put a picture up the other day, right?
Yeah,
And you had what's next to Terence Crawford. You had Errol Spence up there. I think you had Ugas crossed out.
yeah.
And Taylor. But there's one matchup you ain't put up there that I think people are sleeping on, man. I put it in the chat a couple of days ago, but Crawford needs to think about getting in that sweepstakes with Castano and Charlo if he wants to make a big boy move.
And you know what? I saw that on I saw that on Instagram earlier too. That they were talking about who they both. I think it was Mike Tyson talking about who they should fight next.
I think that's what he should do. Put himself in those sweepstakes, man, because if he can move up and potentially get the winner of that matchup, then he gets most of that leverage back because basically Spence would move up and try to do the same thing that Crawford did. Right? Crawford moved up from 140 to 147.
Are you saying move up?
That division.
Are you saying move up and campaign at 154, or move up and just take one fight at 154?
Well, I think he should move up and try and get a 2-fight deal. But in order to do that, he's going to have to talk with Haymon because he has the 54 stable.
Yeah. That, and does he? I mean, won't he have to drop his title at that point too?
Yeah, he's going to have to drop it, but I'd drop it if I'm him. There's more money up there because Spence is going to move up there.
Eventually, but it's going to be about a year. I mean, he can beat him there. Beat him there and go start making money.
If he wants to make that move, you know what I mean? If he wants to get the leverage. Because he's not going to get the leverage at 47, like you said.
Yeah, there's no fight left for him to take at 47 that he can get some leverage. He should have went after that Ugas fight first. He had, once Pacquiao lost to him, Terence Crawford should have jumped on that. The next day he should have been on that fight because Spence was still hurt. Spence was still hurt, so he wasn't like Spence was trying to make that fight at the moment.
Right, agree.
Unless Spence had something in the contract to where whoever won that fight was going to fight him next. So they might have had some type of agreement already behind the scenes that the winner was already going to fight him.
Right. I agree, man. I think it's risky, but hey, I think that's the big move right there. He moves up, goes to 54. Potentially, if he gets the winner of that fight and he knocks him off, Spence moves up. Now we can sit at the table and talk numbers.
You're right because he would get the lion's share at that point because he would already be at 154. So Spence he wouldn't have no bargaining chips.
Exactly, and Haymon gets a double payday because he'll make money off Crawford at 54, and he'll make it double back when Spence moves up.
Yeah.
So that's a win-win, in my opinion.
Yeah. But he could also, like I said the other day, he could also just take the rest of the year off at 147 because I think they give you like a year to where you don't. He just defended his title, so he has up to like a year to where he don't have to defend the title. So he could just hold it for a year and go fight at 154, like you said, 1 or 2 fights. So, but I don't know if you can do 2 154 fights in less than a year. You know what I'm saying? And then because they would have to quickly drop weight and come back down to 147 to defend the title.
True.
But I think
Yeah,
one fight up there makes some money. You know, it will make him money, and if he got it with a champion, he could potentially become a champion in 2 divisions.
right.
And he got all the leverage. Then he has all the leverage at
All
that
the
point.
leverage, all of it.
It actually flips in his favor. It's actually 60-40 in his favor at that point.
Absolutely. And you know what's funny about that? If Charlo beats Castano and Crawford moves up and challenges Charlo, he would have beaten Spencer's stablemate.
Huh.
That's a lot more narrative on this. You know, just
Yeah. You're right about that.
Stablemate. So I hear all the Josh Taylor and Keith Thurman. If Crawford really wants to make a move to gain some leverage, I honestly think it's at 54, man. That's just my opinion on it.
I think that's the biggest power move. I only say Josh Taylor because it would be a quick paycheck for him. If money's what he's looking for, I mean that's a quick paycheck, and you'll most likely win that fight. But if you want to make a power move, he has to go to 154.
Right.
Because they know, like you said, there's no leverage in 147 no more. Spence got the last fight that's worth taking there.
Exactly. You know what's funny too? Keith Thurman, I think, fights in February. Taylor fights in February. The Castano matches in February. So he's gonna have to pick one of those 3, which is the best one to pick.
What do you think about that Thurman fight?
I don't hate that fight. I gotta see how Thurman does against Barrios, man.
Yeah, I mean he's a question mark at this point.
Like that fight.
I think he's a question mark. I mean he definitely is not. I don't think he comes back and just becomes an instant pay-per-view star again. That's why I don't see that fight making a lot of sense really. Because Crawford don't sell, and he's not gonna sell. So you putting 2, it's not gonna sell at all.
It's gonna have trouble sell. I can see that already, man. I can see that being a flop actually.
I mean they might have to put it on regular TV. It would do good.
Yeah. But I'd rather do the Taylor route. If I had to pick Thurman or Taylor, I'd rather do the Taylor route.
Definitely. It's money in that fight. Where it's not. I don't think it's a lot of money in it. The Thurman fight might be a good fight. There's just not no money in it.
Right. Well, man, you're right. I agree, Cardinal. Man, you got some great stuff. Spence has the leverage at 47, and Crawford kind of blew it. I want to ask you this though, because I hear a lot of people talk about 60-40. Was that an actual offer for Crawford? Like paperwork and everything done, he just needed to sign off?
I think so. I think they turned it down. I think they turned it down at one point, and he just didn't want it. Because remember, he got that offer from Pacquiao too before Pacquiao signed with Spence, decided to fight the Spence. You know, earlier this year, because they had sent him the contract, but he said that I forgot who he said turned it down, but one of them was supposed to have turned the contract down. So, I mean, I don't know what he's thinking, man. To be honest with you, because he had that fight, he could have made that fight, the Pacquiao fight. He could have made the Spence fight. I mean, the Thurman fight been out there for him if he wanted it. He could have fought Thurman over Porter.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ugas fight, he didn't even try to go after. Well, he said he did, but the WBA blocked it. But I mean, Spence got the fight, so how did Spence get the fight, but you couldn't get it?
Yeah, man, it's just bad business with Crawford, man. Great fighter, but some of the business moves, it's like, look, man, he put himself in position.
Definitely,
he put himself in position.
And like you said, I think his biggest power play would be 154. And if he wanted to make a super power play, he would go after Triple G. I mean, I know it's a risk. That's a super risk, but the paycheck that'll come with that would be ridiculous.
Man, if he can move up and possibly beat Triple G,
I'm saying.
I don't know. Crawford at 160.
Well, I mean, they could do it at a catch weight. They could do it 155, 155. You know, if he was
Okay.
if Triple G was willing to come down, you know, it probably wouldn't be for a title. It would just be for money.
Yeah. I heard about remember when they were talking about Triple G and Pacquiao
Yeah,
at a catch weight?
yeah,
Remember that?
yeah. I mean, they was even talking about Triple G and Spence. Spence has been hitting that Canelo for a while.
Yeah. We'll see, man. It's gonna be interesting. I'm gonna be following this Crawford story.
Hey, one more question. I don't know if you heard about that too. There was an article came out like a week ago where they were saying that Canelo was gonna go after his 8th division, but then did you see on Instagram today that they said it was somebody who posted that he's not gonna go after that eighth division no more? Like they were saying it's like more unlikely or something.
Yeah, I heard people talking about that. And they're targeting Charlo for Cinco de Mayo. Did you hear that?
No, I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, so they're targeting Charlo for May 5th.
So it's gonna be Canelo and Charlo.
Yeah, that's what they're talking about now.
The older or the younger?
No, the older, the 160.
The 160. Okay.
Yeah, and honestly, my opinion on that, man, Charlo kind of shot himself in the foot. I mean, he wasted his prime years fighting bombs. In my opinion, I like Charlo. I'm from Houston, but man, he shot himself in the foot. I think Canelo's gonna work him. Not that Charlo's a bad fighter, but to go up against a guy like Canelo, you need that preparation in the ring.
Definitely.
Right? And go into these fights without preparing. He doesn't have to prepare for a Dennis Hogan or Brandon Adams or.
And that's how I feel about Crawford. It's like, if you really believe you that good, why do you keep fighting these guys that you know you better than?
Exactly.
It's like you say, he's just wasting good years and good fights for for nothing, really.
For nothing. And, I love Ronnie Shields, too. Ronnie's going to put a game plan, but can Charlo execute it? Because Canelo and Reynoso, you can say what you want about them, but they know how to put a game plan together. They're going to have one ready for Charlo.
Canelo's definitely the top of the mound, no matter what you say about him or what you think about him and performance enhancers, but he's the top of the mountain right now.
Absolutely. So, but you know what? I wouldn't mind seeing it. I'll pay for it. I might even go to that fight.
Man, I wish I was down there.
Yeah, I mean, they might do that one in Vegas, but
shit, that's even further away, man.
Yeah. But I'm gonna be here in Houston for the Charlo Cardinal in February.
Is that gonna be in Houston?
Yeah. Oh
yeah. Cause my father's down there in Houston, man. I need to get down there and see him too, man. I ain't seen him in about 5 years.
Yeah, man, that's gonna be that's the first one in San Antonio, I think.
In San Antonio, but that one's gonna be in Houston.
Yeah, the second one's gonna be in Houston. And if you ask me, I lean towards Charlo in the rematch, but Castano's a live dog, man. He made me a fan after that fight because I didn't even watch much of him up until that Charlo fight, and he impressed me, man. So Charlo's gonna have to bring him. I think he can, though. The difference between young Charlo is that he's had those big fights in his prime, right?
Yeah.
So I think he and Derek James could put together a game plan and execute a lot better than the big Charlo and Ronnie, in my opinion.
But the big Charlo's the one who got knocked out, ain't it?
Well, none of them got knocked out. Which fight are you talking about?
Well, he lost once. I saw. No, he didn't get knocked out, but he got. I think they stopped the fight or something.
Lift the little one, the one at 54, lost to Tony Harrison in the first fight, and then he won the rematch.
Okay. Did they stop the fight? Because I remember watching it. I thought he got knocked out.
Nah, it went 12. The first one went 12. The second fight, he stopped Harrison in the second fight.
Huh? Maybe I'm just. I might just be remembering it wrong. I know that's the one fight I did see of Charlo. That was the one he lost.
Yeah, for Harrison. Yeah, But I mean, hey, we got some good fights as far as Spence goes, man. You know, I'm a big Spence fan too. I've probably been to every time he's in Dallas. You know, I take that trip with my boys. Was there for the Mikey Garcia, the Danny Garcia. I went to LA for the Sean Porter, so I support Spence. And I agree with what you said a couple nights ago, man. I think he's in his bag right now. I think he's in his bag right now.
Yeah, I don't think he's really caring at this point too much, man. I think he's just sitting back, relaxing, laughing about all this, like, because he knows like there's nothing Crawford can really do at this point. And the Ugas situation, I mean, just killed it off. I think he's really having a chuckle about this now because there's nowhere at 147 for him to go. He's kind of boxed in at 147.
You know what, man? If I'm Crawford, I'm doing two things. I'm taking whatever Spence offers me, or I'm going up to 54. But I just don't. The Josh Taylor fight cool, but it's just something about it that puts a bad taste in my mouth. Like you just quote unquote left hand and now you're going back.
To try to get a paycheck. I mean, yeah, because he could have made that fight while he was over.
Yeah, like I don't know. Something just doesn't seem right with it.
And I mean, what do you think they didn't make? They didn't make that fight while he was there. They didn't make the Pacquiao fight. I mean, why don't they put this guy in with better fighters? I mean, he's had at least 3 super fights offered to him: Pacquiao, Spence, and Ugas, which all would have made him. I mean, Ugas might not have made him a lot of money. It might have made him about the same amount as the Porter fight, but you know, Spence and Pacquiao, you had at least 2 offered to you already. Remember, because they said they sent them the contract, and they said that they didn't want to sign the contract. I know, and that's what was because I can't remember exactly what I had to look. I might talk about that tomorrow. Tomorrow's like I had to go look it up, but it was somebody in his camp who said they sent us the contract, but we didn't sign it. So yeah, I don't.
On the business side, which I agree, I think he's an excellent fighter. You know what I mean? I think he does have the tools to beat an Errol Spence and Sean. Like the Spence that beat Garcia, I think TC would probably wash him.
And I agree with you. And that's why I don't actually believe the whole eye injury thing. I think he realized when he saw that Pacquiao footage and people were comparing Pacquiao's footage to his footage and saying how slow he looked, that he was like, man, I gotta do something about this, or ain't gonna be no more strap season. But I don't. I look, and people can say what they want about the Pacquiao Ugas fight. I don't think Pacquiao showed up for that fight personally. I think when he got the news about the fight was canceled, he just didn't look like he was into it no more. So I mean, you can say what you want to about the Pacquiao fight. He lost, you know what I'm saying. But I think if it was Spence, he might have actually beat, because the Spence that fought Danny Garcia, that same Spence wouldn't have beat Pacquiao.
Oh, no way. No way.
I actually think Ugas, if that same Spence fought Ugas that night, he'd have probably lost.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought he had a good performance just based off of the accident and the layoff. But as far as him being in his prime,
it didn't. Yeah. I mean, him versus like you said, like Crawford in that same fight, he wouldn't have won at all. I mean, Crawford would have just beat him up, really.
Right. Yeah, so I think he's in his bag, man. We'll see. Hopefully they can fight, because I really want to see that fight.
Definitely, bro. Definitely appreciate you calling in. Yeah, we got to see, man, because we don't know with all this stuff spreading around if the Spence fight's even gonna happen at this point.
Yeah. What do you think, real quick? What do you think about the up and coming 47 pounds like Virgil Ortiz, Ryan? What do you think about those guys?
I think Ortiz is the real deal. I mean, look at it. You just look at his knockout ratio.
Yeah.
His knockout ratio says it all. I think Boots is probably gonna make some noise. You know, when people are avoiding you, you got to be good. You know, when people are avoiding you. So um,
Yeah.
it's just all gonna depend. I mean, it really all hangs on the Spence Crawford situation. Because until them guys get out the way, can't nobody really come up and make a name. Because they're not gonna fight them because they want to hold on to them belts until they can fight each other.
Right. Right.
So
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of them. I think Crawford need to be careful with Ortiz. A lot of people think he's gonna watch Ortiz, but Ortiz is at the top of that WBO, and that's what's the crack, man.
you think Crawford goes
One
after
thousand
Ortiz next?
crack.
You think he'll go after Ortiz next? I don't think
I
neither
don't
one
know.
of
I
them
don't
want
think
it
he
with
would.
him. I mean, his knockout ratio is just way too high
Yeah, I don't think he would, but he's right at the top of the WBO ranking, and I think him and his team have been trying to push for that fight.
for
So,
that fight.
yeah, you might need to be careful, man, because they may mandate that fight if he's not going to make
So
the
he
WBO.
so how was Sean Porter ranked higher than him in the WBO?
That's a good question. I think Sean just put in there. Remember?
That's what I be wondering about these fights, and then people be like, "Well, it was mandatory." I'm like, "Well, how did he ain't even fought in a year? How could he be?" And this dude got like a 90-something% KO ratio.
It was after Sean beat Sebastian Formella, they split it number one at the time. So Virgil was number one, and then they split Porter after Porter beat Formella. Yeah. Yeah, but then Crawford didn't even want to fight Porter. Took him a while to make that fight.
I mean, yeah, it did take a while because he fought Brook like a year ago, so he been off almost a
Yeah.
year.
Yeah, but that kid's a problem. That's a big name fight if you ask me. They do that in Dallas, Texas, but he's from Dallas. And they support Virgil. So Crawford goes down at the Cowboy Stadium. That's a big fight. That's a big fight.
And I think that's another thing. That's another thing is that I don't think Terence Crawford likes the fact Earl Spence is gonna have that home court advantage. Now,
Oh, if
I
they
think
got
he might have took that 60-40 if it was a neutral site, but I don't think they gonna do it. I think it's gonna be like you said down in Texas.
yeah, I don't think it should be like the Earl fight should be in Vegas or somewhere like a neutral. I don't think they should
Well,
do
I
that.
mean, he would pack that Cowboy Stadium though.
Oh yeah.
That's way more seats than they would be able to do in Vegas.
But that'll be, I mean, I heard man, that go crazy.
I mean, it's a super fight, so you got to do it in the biggest venue possible. What they do ain't that what they did to Pacquiao? The Pacquiao, what's your name of fight? Where they did it in Dallas. Uh, and who did he knock
I'm
it?
trying to say. I'm trying to say. I know what you're talking about. What fight was that?
Was it Hatton?
I gotta look that up, man. I think he did fight that.
I think he fought twice down there. He packed the stadium twice down there. Because
Okay.
it's between him and Spence that other than the Cowboys who holds the record for packing their stadium.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
But all right,
Yeah.
bro, I ain't gonna hold you too much longer, man.
All right, man. I appreciate it, man. I've been following you for a couple weeks now, man. You doing the best out there. So
I appreciate it,
hopefully we
bro,
can.
man. I try to go down the line, man, because like I said, I don't really have a dog in this fight, man. I'm a Pacquiao fan, but I like both guys. They both cool, man. But at the end of the day, the negotiating power is with who is with. I can't, even though Terence Crawford's a likable guy too. I can't laugh. I don't want to laugh for him.
Right. Oh, let me ask you this: for you, a Pacquiao fan, who would have won when the fight was offered to Crawford at 140?
At 140? Hmm.
At 140.
And this is probably when Pacquiao was like 35, 36, 34, somewhere. It would have been a heck of a. I would have to favor Pacquiao because he was knocking everybody out at 140. I mean, most of his knockouts are at 130. I think it was 130 and 140. That's where the majority of his knockouts were. So
That was a great fight. 'Cause I think Crawford was his best at 140.
at 140.
Yeah.
But my only thing would be with that is everybody who talks about Crawford said his chin's never been tested, and we know Pacquiao's the chin. At 140, Pacquiao was the chin tester, man. And he would have, and he was quicker at 140. So I don't know. I don't. He might have scraped Crawford at 140. To be honest with you, at that point, I mean, he was a monster at that point. So I don't know too many fighters who wanted it with Pacquiao at that class.
Yeah. But man, I appreciate you, man. I'm gonna call in soon, man, when you do it again this week.
Definitely, bro. Anytime, man. Anytime. Definitely, man. I think I made you a moderator and stuff too, man. So, man, if you want to do anything else, I can help you if you got a channel, bro. Anytime, man. Anytime. Just holler at me.
Yeah, I'm thinking about making one, so I'll let you know, man, for sure.
All right, bro. All right, man. You take it easy. Stay safe down there, bro.
You too, man. Appreciate it.
All right. Man, all right, that was dope, man. So that was Devon Wallace, man. I got the calling in from Texas, man. So that was dope, man. So this is why I wanted to do that bring that into the channel because it opens up the conversation, allows other people to voice their opinion. I don't want to be the only voice, you know. I don't want y'all to feel like I feel like my opinion supersedes y'all because we all fans at the end of the day. So it's just like collaborating with each other and picking each other's brain to try to predict what's going to happen in the future world of boxing. And when you get good people to talk to, man, it's awesome. It's real awesome, man. It makes the conversation so much better, bro. So I appreciate you for that, Divine. Anybody else want to hit me up? Who says Chris here for the support, gang. I appreciate that. Rod Rondo says strap season. Appreciate you for stopping through, bro. Definitely, man. So, man, it's been a lively conversation. Got like 6 people in here right now. So, what do y'all think, man? The people we got left in here after my conversation with Divine, what do y'all think? Where y'all think things is gonna go? Y'all think Crawford should go with the Taylor fight? We talked about Taylor. We talked about the Charlos. Should he hold out for Spence? Should he hold out for a new promotional company? You know, Terence Crawford has a lot of. I agree with what Cap says. Crawford has a lot of options. Only thing I don't agree with what Caps has been saying is that Spence doesn't have any options. I think Spence has a whirlwind of options, and the fact that he has the negotiating power kind of gives him even more options because he can go like Crawford can. He can also go campaign at 154. You know, he's about to do. I think Ugas is a mandatory fight, so that would take care of one of his mandatories. I think he has an IBF mandatory, but we don't know when that mandatory is due. So it might be 5 months from now, it might be 6 months, it might be immediately after the Ugas fight. But if it's 5 or 6 months, or 8 months before it becomes due after the Ugas fight, then he can go up to 154, take a fight. Get some money off of that and come back down and still have his titles as well. So it's going to be interesting. I think this is what this is the last thing I'm going to say because it don't look like nobody else is saying anything in the chat. So I'm probably going to end it on this note. I think this is probably what's going to end up happening. I think that both of those guys are going to end up moving up in weight before they fight each other. I think that you're going to see both of those guys move up in weight and test the water before they actually fight each other. Because at this point, they've frozen each other at 147. There's nothing that the other one should really be doing at 147 besides fighting themselves, besides fighting each other. Once Spence fights Ugas, there's not another credible fight at 147 for either one of those guys except for each other. So if they're not going to fight each other, it just don't make sense. The dollar amounts don't match up. The only natural thing for both of them to do is to move up to 154 and fight where the titles are not on the line. So I think it might end up happening like that. I think if they take the titles out of the equation and both of them move up to 154, you can make the fight 50-50 at that point. As long as it's not for any titles. It's a 50-50 one-on-one fight, basically just for the money and the fame and the hype. So neither one of those guys have to risk their 147 record. Neither one have to risk their title. They can just both get it on and see who's the best guy. And I think that would be the best option in that. And I think if Terence Crawford signed with PBC, they might end up making the fight that way because it makes more sense. Because at that point, now you have Terence Crawford as a champion that you can promote, and you have Errol Spence as a champion that you can promote, still at 147. And you could have tested the water with 154 with both of those guys. And they're still champions. So, I mean, there's a way to make that fight if the belts aren't on the line. They can make it at 147 and just not make it a title fight. But I doubt that they would do it at 147 and not force the titles to be on the line. So it makes more sense. You know, if neither one of those guys want to risk their O unless they're facing each other, move the fight to 154. It could easily be made. You know, nobody's titles on the line. It's just the O and bragging rights and money. You can make the fight 50-50. It's fair and square at 154. It's an even fight at 154. Neither guy has proven anything at 154. It's an even fight. So I think I'm gonna leave it there. And if you ain't got nothing else to say, man, you got something to say, drop it in the chat real fast. I appreciate and salute Divine, man, for calling in and running that convo up for the audience, man. I appreciate that. Sean T, that fight needs to happen now. What do you think, T, man? Do you think do you think it would be easier to make it if they did it at 154 since the titles wouldn't be on the line? And I like I said, I'll leave that as the last question for everybody. Because I think if you took the titles out of the equation, it's supposed to be for undisputed, but they can't. And I think that that's the problem, though. It's because when the belts come into play and that undisputed comes into play, then it makes the money funny. And Terence Crawford wants a portion of that money that he just doesn't deserve, being the underdog in the fight. Whether people think he's a better fighter or not, he is the underdog in that fight. So if you took the title of undisputed off of it and you took the belts out of the way, you know, both guys are even at that point. There is no A side, B side at 154 between those two guys, because neither one of them has proven anything at 154. So the fight could easily be made as a 50-50 or touted as a 50-50 fight. It just wouldn't be for undisputed, or it wouldn't be for titles, period. It would be for bragging rights and the O. I think, you know, and they've basically taken titles out of everything. They keep saying that the title, Crawford keeps saying the titles don't matter. So take the titles out of the equation. Say, hey, well, I just want to fight you. Say, I don't even need the belts. I don't need the belts. I just want to fight you. We'll put the O's on the line. We'll put the money and the O's on the line. F the belts. He keeps saying F the belts anyway. Put them O's on the line at 154. That would completely make the fight, and it would make it an even 50-50 fight. I would agree with all the Terence Crawford fans, and I'm surprised none of them have brought that up, is that if you move that fight up, then it's even. But with that, I think I'm going to end it. It's been on for like an hour. Appreciate all the great conversation, man. We had a great conversation today, man. And definitely encourage anybody who wants to get a Google Voice number. You don't have to call me with your personal number if you don't want to. Google Voice numbers are free. You just go on to Google. They'll attach a voice number to your phone, and then you can call me from your Google Voice number, or you can get a Text Now number. The Text Now number is a little more difficult to get than the Google Voice. The Google Voice is real easy. If you have a Google account, you already got a Google Voice number. You're just not using it. So definitely encourage anybody who wants to call in, voice their opinion, drop some new knowledge on the community. To do that, man, I'll definitely try to get back on here tomorrow. We can do it again. Have some more fun with this, man. So I give y'all a few minutes. I'm gonna play some music. See if anybody drops anything in the chat. If nobody drops nothing in the chat, it's your boy Cardinal Red, and we are out of here.
All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling.
I just wanna touch a onion. She just want a couple hundred. I got mad and changed the subject. Then I got drunk and said fuck it. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. Pull up with that Aquafina. Yellow bone, her name is Tina. Tina like the hit casinos. Tina could snort a whole kilo. Tina like to fight and argue. Bye bye Tina, bitch, who are you? Met a dark skin chick named Anna. Anna like that marijuana. Anna was from the Bahamas. At least that's what she said. I assume she's honest. I apologize, Your Honor. I just wanted me some money. You can't tell these niggas frontin'. You can't tell these niggas nothing. 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 You can't tell these niggas nothing.
All that seems to be on my mind is hustling. All that seems to be on my mind is hustling.
This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling niggas. This is for my hustling bitches. This is for my hustling bitches. Nigga, don't act so suspicious. Hustle hot as hell, but you swear they snitching. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna go to prison. You don't wanna come up missing. You don't wanna come up missing. I just want a couple bitches. Put them in the ring, make a split decision. I'm trying to slow down with the sinning. I pray to God, no, he'll forgive me. Me and God had a discussion. He said, tell him. I said, you can't tell these niggas nothing. You can't tell these niggas